Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 2 on DraftKings is fast approaching. Sunday will be here soon enough. And I've got some top stacks for tournaments for you. It is much easier to be right about 1 or 2 things than it is to be right about 8 or 9 things. So from that perspective, stacking is extremely important when it comes to tournaments. Bringing those stacks back, or meaning, if I'm playing a Cowboys stack, meaning Dak Prescott with 1 or 2 of his receivers, I'm going to bring back that stack with 1 player, running back, tight end, or wide receiver from the opposing team. This week would be the Falcons. So we're going to take this video. It's a new video on the channel. I'm kind of trying it out this year. It's going to come out every single Thursday. I appreciate you guys stopping in and watching all of the videos that I've put out on this channel. Appreciate you guys. Give yourselves a hand. We're going to do this stacks video to give you a better perspective on how to try and attack tournaments. Because as I said, much easier to be right about a couple of things than a lot of things. If you hit your stack, 2, 3 players, maybe 4 of them, including the bring back player, all go off, propelling your lineups up the sheet into the money and hopefully into the top 100 or the top 10 where the money can really change. So if you would be so kind, drop a like on this video. Let me know what you think about it. Is this something that you like in the new rotation? Or is there something different that you'd like to see? Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell. As I've been saying this week, just click some damn thing because it all really, really helps. Let's get to the video. We got a whole bunch of quarterbacks that we can use. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is going to be extremely popular every single week and is stackable every single week. I don't think that we need to focus on him, especially considering that there are about 2 guys that you're going to want to stack him with on a week-in, week-out basis. So those 2 guys being Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. Yes, there are other guys that you could stack him with, but those are the 2 main ones. Focus on them and bring it back with some of the other team. Patrick Mahomes, same sort of idea. Stack Mahomes with either Hill or Kelsey or both. You're going to add other players if you're using a lineup builder into his groups. Bring it back with guys on the opposing team because the Chiefs basically lead about 70% of the time for when you include all their games for the last 2 years. And teams that play from behind tend to throw the ball 70% of the time. So 70% of the time, they're going to be throwing it 70% of the time. So you're going to have a lot of catches coming back on opposing teams, whether it's a pass catching running back, a tight end, or a wide receiver. The stacks that I want to focus on today for week 2, first one is going to be extremely popular, and I don't care because it's that damn good. Atlanta and Dallas has the highest team total, or the highest overall total on the week. It is not a game that is expected to blow out. There are many games on this slate that have 5.5 or 6 point spreads where things could get a little bit out of hand. This game does look to be close enough with enough scoring, as both defenses are not stellar, especially in the defensive backfield, that we can stack both of these quarterbacks. So the groups that I am going to build, and I'm always going to talk to you about the groups that we're going to build. Whether you're building lineups by hand, you need to take these into consideration when you're building your lineups, or if you're using a lineup builder, we have links down below in the description for Daily Roto's lineup builder where you get a 10% discount, or if you want to jump in on the rotogrinders lineup builder with their Core 4 subscription, there is a link in the description down below for both of those. Get in where you fit in if you want to use a lineup builder. So Dak Prescott. The loss of Blake Jarwin is important here to me. Last year, with Witten and Jarwin as the secondary guy, the Cowboys threw the ball 22% of the time to their tight ends. With Witten now on the Raiders and Jarwin now at the doctor for the rest of this year, that leaves Dalton Schultz, who is not somebody you're going to funnel 15 to 17% of the targets to, which to me means that the wide receivers and backs are going to get a couple of more percentage points sprinkled their way when it comes to their usage in the passing game. Amari Cooper, Gallup, Lamb. You can also include Ezekiel Elliott and Pollard, but when I'm building groups, I'm probably not going to include those guys in my Dak Prescott groups. I am going to use at least 1 or 2 of both of these, or of all 3 of these guys in every lineup that Dak Prescott is in. I'm going to give that rule to the lineup builder this week. The second group that I'm going to make, I am also going to use 1 or 2 players that is on Atlanta. because I think that this game has a great potential to shoot out. Guys like Julio Jones. And why did it put him in the flex? Guys like Julio Jones, guys like Ridley. I am not going to include Gage in this. And I know that some people want to play him because I've seen it in my mentions and I've seen it in the replies on YouTube and I've heard it in chat on Twitch. Russell Gage is at best a 5 or a 5.5 target guy in terms of expectation on a week in, week out basis. 12 targets was an anomaly in week 1. It was an outlier in week 1, and it's not where I want to hang my hat in week 2. So I will include him in the group that I'm going to build, but I'm going to limit him, and I'm going to boost him down, meaning I'm going to, if the projection is not in line with what I believe his target projection is, I'm going to take down the overall projection of the player so he does not pop into lineups more than I want him to be. For me, essentially, he's a fade this week. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Hayden Hurst, though, is not going to be a fade for me this week. The 6.8 points that he scored in week 1 is going to be a thing that keeps people off of him. But the things that should keep you on him, there's a couple of things that I look at for tight ends in terms of predicting usage and how sticky is it from week to week. If a tight end is blocking on a large percentage of their quarterback's dropbacks, they are not going to do very well. It's going to be much harder for them to be in the route 40 or 50% of the time and have a sustainable amount of targets. Hayden Hurst ran 10 more routes than any other tight end in week 1. He ran routes on over 80% of Matt Ryan's dropbacks in week 1. He is not here to be a 50% of the time blocking wide receiver or pass catcher in this offense. And for that reason, I think he's going to bump from the 11% of targets that he got in week 1 to more around 15%, which on a week-to-week basis means 6 to 7 targets a week for a tight end who's too cheap. I will 100% be including him in my Dak Prescott and Matt Ryan stacks here in week 1. I think that you should be building groups and bring back groups for both of these quarterbacks. This is clearly my top stack of the week. Moving on to a couple of more. You saw the cover boy. You know who it is. We're going with Arizona here. Kyler Murray is a second-year quarterback, and second-year quarterbacks tend to take a leap. Usually, it's because they've had an entire offseason of mini camps and training camp and everything else, and not all the responsibilities that they have as a rookie to train for the combine, to do pro days all through February and March, the second half of January, and then after the draft in April, they've got to go do all the rookie symposium stuff. They've got to go do all the rookie introduction things, take pictures, kiss babies, sign autographs. Those 6 months are crucial for a second-year player because instead of doing all that junket, they are just being the number one quarterback on their team or the number one wide receiver or running back on their team. And that's why you see a big reason why you see second-year players take a big leap. The most encouraging thing to me was the rushing attempts for Kyler Murray in week 1. 13 of them on the ground. I don't believe he is going to run the ball an average of 13 times this year, but it was encouraging that he did because last year we didn't think that he ran the ball enough. 4, 5, 6 rushing attempts a week. We were hoping that he could get up to somewhere around 8, 9, or 10. If he settles in at 9.5 or 10 rush attempts per week on a week in, week out basis, Kyler Murray is going to be an absolute smash in daily fantasy, considering the talent that he has to throw to, and he did throw it 40 times, as Arizona is an extremely fast-paced team, runs a lot of no-huddle, plays at one of the fastest snap-to-snap rates in the league at like 24, 25 seconds per snap. And a lot of people are telling me that Washington is a good defense, and why would I play Kyler Murray against them? Because look, they had 8 sacks against Philly, and Philly has a bad offensive line, and Arizona has a bad offensive line. You know who also has a really good defensive line? The San Francisco 49ers, who he just torched for 27.3 DraftKings points and would have had the 100-yard rushing bonus on DraftKings if he didn't kneel down out of the shotgun in the strangest victory formation of all time. There, I said it. Obviously, we're going to be putting DeAndre Hopkins in the stacks with Kyler. We're also going to include Christian Kirk, who I think is a great bounce back this week, as he was fed to Richard Sherman in week 1, and they just looked away from him and kept peppering DeAndre Hopkins. On his side, they were taking shots down the field to Christian Kirk. I don't think that those 5 targets are going to be the thing for him every week. I think he's more of a 7 or 8 target guy on a week in, week out basis. He is not just going to catch one of those. He will probably catch 4 balls a week on average, if not more than that. And the amount of shots that they're going to take downfield, and I think he had 27 less air yards on 12 less targets than did DeAndre Hopkins. So people are going to avoid him this week because they're scared of what happened last week and not going to realize that this is a totally different situation and a team in Washington that does not have anywhere near the talent that San Francisco has in the defensive backfield. I will also be including Larry Fitzgerald in those stacks. Probably not going to include Isabella. If you want to include Drake, fine. The way that I go about building my pass catcher stacks, unless it's somebody like Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley who project to get like 8 to 10 targets a week, I'm not going to include them in my pass catcher stacks, but I'm also not going to stop the lineup builder from putting them into lineups with Kyler Murray at quarterback. So I might end up with DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray, Kenyon Drake stacks because Kenyon Drake is also a very good value for this week. It's one of those things where he'll just end up in the lineup without me having to force him. I am not going to build stacks on the other side with Haskins Jr. just because I don't think that I have to. But I will be building some bring back stacks on the other side with Terry McLaurin, probably Steven Sims, and LT3 Logan Thomas, who ran 77% of Washington's dropbacks. He ran a route. That's elite, guys. That's like it's over 75% of routes run for a tight end is all the top guys. Mark Andrews this year, not Mark Andrews last year, we ran like 50%, but Mark Andrews this year, Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz, all the top pass catching tight ends that cost like 6-7K on DraftKings run 75+% of routes per dropback. Logan Thomas in that range now, but only 3,600. I'll clearly be including him in my groups with Kyler Murray. Probably going to limit to 1 though when I build those stacks. So it's probably going to be a 1 or a 2 stack with 1 guy coming back the other way. The next stacks that I want to talk about is one that I think is not going to catch a really, really high percentage outside of the high stakes community. And that's going to be Tom Brady stacks. Tom Brady is rumored, if you listen to Twitter, is too old to throw the ball downfield, but he had the higher in week 1, he had a higher yards per attempt than he's had at any point in the last 7 years playing with New England. It has a lot to do with the offense that they're running in Tampa Bay versus the offense that they ran in New England. It also has a lot to do with the tools that he has in the toolbox. Throwing to Edelman and the like is not going to net you as much yards per attempt as throwing to guys like Chris Godwin, who currently is a question mark for this week. We're going to have to monitor this. Did not participate, or had a concussion, did not participate in Thursday's practice. Monitor this as the week goes on. If he's cleared to play, then go for it, because he's going to line up in the slot. And you look at the guys that Carolina was defending the slot with last week. Chris Godwin's going to catch some linebackers, some safeties, and on the off chance a defensive end, they're going to match up with the slot player, looking back at how they covered the slot in week 1 in Carolina, how they're defending the slot. So if Godwin's there, he's going to see some time in the slot, and he's going to have a ridiculous matchup. If he's not there, Mike Evans is a great bounce back candidate. In week 1, he did not do well. In week 1, he was coming into the week hurt. Yes, both things are true. He's still only 6,400, should be a 7 to 8 target guy every single week. And if you look back at his track record against Lattimore on the Saints, he is just not somebody who performs well. Lattimore's just got his number. Now Lattimore's not there. It's the Carolina Panthers, who've allowed like 3 or 4 touchdowns a game for the past 8 games. So like, you're not going to play Mike Evans in tournaments this week? Mike Evans has as much chance to catch a long touchdown pass as anybody else in the league, has as much single or double touchdown upside as any wide receiver in the league. He is not priced like one of those guys. I will clearly be using him in my tournament stacks with him. If you want to include Scotty Miller, great. If we have Godwin out, then yeah, we're probably going to take a shot on Justin Watson as well. instead of Godwin because he'll see more of the field. I don't love it. Again, I'm probably going to limit him. At tight end, you can play Gronk, you can play Howard in those lineups. We can bring it back on Carolina with one of many players. DJ Moore, very talented, getting a lot of volume, saw 2 end zone targets last week, 9 targets, did not perform. Has a really, really tough matchup this week. If you want to limit him, I'm fine with that. Robbie Anderson, as much big play as anybody in that offense, and only 5,200. Curtis Samuel saw a bunch of targets in week 1, can also stack with him, and obviously Christian McCaffrey, I'm probably going to limit to one of the players on Carolina. So it'll just say in any lineup with Tom Brady as quarterback, make sure that exactly one of this group of players is in those lineups coming back. That's how I'm going to build those Brady stacks. Couple of other teams that I wanted to talk about real quick before I go. A game that I think could shoot out is the Rams against Philly. We have a lot of guys that we can stack with here. The quarterbacks are definitely not priced up. There's enough value on this slate everywhere, at wide receiver, at tight end, and at running back, that any stack that you want is going to fit for the most part. And you can do that getting really high volume from really underpriced guys. You could do this is almost a pick'em week on DraftKings. When I say pick'em, it's like you can build almost whatever lineup that you want to build. So Carson Wentz stacks, we're going to stack him. I'm going to use Miles Sanders in that stack. This is a different situation. Like I said, there are certain running backs I will include in the group with Carson, or with the quarterback, and those are the guys that are going to catch a lot of balls. We saw Deshaun Jackson and Jalen Reagor have average depth of target over 30 yards downfield. These guys are one play away from breaking a big one, and you're also going to use both tight ends in your group with Carson Wentz. So Wentz is going to be in a group where I'm going to use one or two of Sanders, Jackson, Reagor, Ertz, Goddard. We are going to bring that back with basically everybody that's on the Rams. Cooper Kupp, yes. Woods, yes. Higbee, yes. In my bring back, I will also use a running back if I think that running back is going to get enough volume. So in my bring back stack, if Wentz is the quarterback, I will be using Malcolm Brown in that stack, but I will be excluding him from the stack. If he ends up in the lineup with Goff, I'm fine. My Goff stacks are going to be Goff, Kupp, Woods, Higbee. If Goff is the quarterback, use one or two of these 3 players. If you're not using a lineup builder, obviously you're not making those rules into a thing to have it construct the lineups for you if you're doing mass monthly entry, but you still want to think about these philosophies when you're building your lineups by hand. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Drop a like down below. Look for another video right there. Bye.
He's a legend.